This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Good afternoon and welcome to the afternoon show with Famida Choudhary on Teachers Talk Radio. Today's discussion centers on a vital question. Are we truly preparing students to be articulate, creative, and confident communicators in a rapidly evolving world?
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
Our topic for today: empowering future voices, integrating communication and creativity, explores how teachers can embed these essential skills into their classrooms, not just as extracurricular activities, but as core components of learning. So, joining me today, we have Tarannum Sheikh, an educator, public speaking coach, and advocate of creative self expression. She has helped learners across different age groups build confidence in public speaking, writing, and storytelling. Her expertise in developing students' communication skills, both verbal and written, has shaped how educators can rethink traditional classroom practices to better equip students for the future. Tarannum, welcome to the show. Hi, Tarannum, are you there?
Me?
Yeah, now I can
Yeah.
hear you.
Thank,
Yes, welcome.
thank you very much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
So, Taranum, as I started with a very important and vital question, about truly preparing students to be articulate, creative, and confident communicators in this today's world and going forward as well. But you know that already schools are focusing on communication skills because it's one of the 21st century skills and very much needed for all types of learners. But there's still a need to expand opportunities for students. So, again, before posing a question, all the listeners listening to me, put on your thinking caps. And yes, Taranum is here to answer my questions. Whereas, what are some critical areas like educators should place more emphasis on?
Thank you, Famida. It's such a vital question that you've posed about critical thinking, communication as one of the few of the four C's of 21st century skills that we often talk about. Before we delve into understanding what's communication and creativity and how educators can embed these practices, let us understand both the elements in a little deeper way. Communication, in my opinion, is the exchange of thoughts, ideas, questions, and solutions, while creativity is trying new things to get things done, problem solving, or in simple words, seeing things in a different light. So
Hmm.
these are the two core essential skills of the 21st century world. And to further delve into it, I would like you to, use a metaphorical way of explaining it in terms of communication and creativity as, the branches, the roots and the branches of a tree. So communication, the roots, because that's something you need to propel yourself to the next level. And being in the communication and the coaching domain, I place a lot of emphasis into communication and confidence that goes hand in hand. So I would like to deem that as a significant part of the tree, which is the roots, and while creativity as the branch, that helps you to outstretch, explore, and the new possibilities and new ideas. So having said that, these two are the core skills of the 21st century, and I think we as teachers to understand how important they are in navigating the challenges of the real world. So
Mm-hmm.
even in my experience in school, we've seen that the schools have been evolving quite a lot, from the time when I began my career somewhere in 2009, and now if I see in the last one decade, there has been a lot of positive change that has happened in the school communities, because now the educators and the senior management and the administration has clearly understood how these two skills are important for children to be honed and nurtured at the right age. So that's my take on effective communication and creativity. To further delve into communication and creativity, I have seen that there has been quite a misconception, or I would say there is an overemphasis on these things as well in school, which could prove counterintuitive. Let me give you an example. So when we
Mm-hmm.
talk about creativity, a lot of us, deem creativity as something which is a tangible outcome. For example, a creative project, or maybe something to do with DIY that the child creates and showcases, and maybe acts out in a theater in a creative way. Of course, those elements are of creativity. What I would like to stress here, as in my experience, is that creativity shouldn't be narrowed down to only something that's tangible out there, because that way it puts a lot of pressure on students when it comes to creativity. Oh, I have to create something in order to be called creative. It doesn't have to be like that. I feel even asking a creative question, or giving a creative response, or providing a creative solution to a problem should be deemed as creativity,
Absolutely.
as
So
opposed to
I
just creating it. Yes.
Mm. So I think something that we are coming close to is communication, looking at from the perspective of a tool for self-expression. So when I say communication, or that for that matter creativity, as you rightly pointed out, it could not be something like a wholesome process of a presentation where the child has to go through different steps and then present. Because we do have a lot of study done on this. When you look at different frameworks that are available currently, like the design for change or the inquiry based learning,
Hmm.
because they all have the part of creativity and communication there in bits and pieces. And
Hmm.
it might not be like it is there throughout, but we cannot underline the fact or forget the fact that these also are important. Because when you deal, as you have also dealt with different age groups, there
Hmm.
would be something that goes with guided and stepwise for children to
Yeah.
come up with to that final outcome.
Correct.
And for a few it would be like just an impromptu, or it could be something that just pops up, like those light bulb moments that we say in
Absolutely.
our class. So I have posed a critical thinking question and somebody just fantastically comes out with a
Absolutely.
brilliant answer. Even for the
Absolutely.
planning stage, when we have those discussions with students with storytelling. But
Yeah.
because even before, when they come up and tell their stories, it is that planning stage where they talk it out, where they discuss
Hmm.
it. Maybe
Yeah.
it just with the elbow partner, and you've been off hearing their conversation,
Hmm.
and that triggers the eureka, like, oh my god, this is like a brilliant idea.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there are, I think, getting the students to think, that is something might not be verbal, it would be
Hmm.
non-verbal, but then you would get those responses. So we are still looking at Taranum, what do you find opportunities like educators still can embed? Like, we do have the
Hmm.
MUS, we do have the
Yeah.
debates,
Yeah.
we do have nowadays, like as you said, we spent a decade back and we used to have just those newspaper articles or newspapers where we would read only the news of the day
Right.
or the week. But you have now newspaper articles written by kids, you have blogs, you have the social media, so there's
Hmm.
so much there. But how we can have every learner maximize this advantage of embedding the 21st century skill is what my
Yes.
question is.
That's a wonderful question, Femida. And I'm so glad that we are discussing this early on in our conversation. Let me explain it or dissect it part by part. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
as you rightly put, every learner should be able to maximize the learning and the 21st century skills among them. I want to go back to a classroom scenario. Okay. A large majority of our students, let's understand the ability groupings that we all have in our classrooms, right? So we have the middle achievers, you have the high flyers, and you have the low ability students who need support to grow. Um, and when we look at the ability grouping, we see that the large majority of our students are average achievers. I'm sure you may agree with that. When we want to maximize opportunities in classroom, we have to look at it in a way that we are creating our middle achievers, or building or honing confidence among our middle achievers first. Let me give you an anecdote to explain what I mean by this. I had this student a few years ago who joined me at the Active Kids platform. Was very well versed with the language skills and had clarity and confidence to talk. So when I happened to ask him, what bothers you about your school, or what is one change you want to bring in your class or in your school, he says that I never get selected by my teachers in competitions or host an event, or inter-school or school events, and I crave for it. I really want my teachers to understand that I can do it. These were his words, and it really shook me, and I kind of got into the downward spiral, as in, he's right. I mean, when I see myself in a classroom setup, we always leverage on students who are proficient speakers, who are confident in their thoughts and in their clarity.
Mm-hmm.
However, we largely ignore students who need the guidance, confidence to kind of go to the next level. Sometimes I feel we as educators kind of, we are blindfolded by the fact that we are only focusing on the ones who can bring us result. Let me put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
While a large majority of our students still want the recognition. So, to answer your question, first is the identification part of it. I think the educators, especially teachers, should ask critical questions to themselves. I mean, how we can leverage opportunities in the classroom so our middle achievers can have the confidence to speak, confidence to talk, confidence to write, confidence to host. Because these tiny opportunities that we create in classroom can bring a dramatic change in the way they look at things. So tell me one thing: if a teacher encourages a student to do something better, I think that something itself is a boost for a child, isn't it? So
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
when we talk about maximization, I think with the current practices that we have, the smart students are getting smarter, while our average students are still remaining average, sadly though.
You're reminding me of haves and the have nots. So,
Absolutely,
I'm sure
Famida.
we
And
studied this. Yeah.
it really, puts a question to us as educators. I mean, do we have to revive our practices? Do we have to still relook at things and understand things from the student's perspective? Uh,
Yes.
and build practices so that we can maximize these opportunities in the classroom. Sometimes, it's not just the outcome that matters; it's the process. What the school would
Yes.
take.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
think that is something that I want to go into before we kind of talk further about creating opportunities. Of course, there are a host of practical strategies that the teachers can use, but it all starts with the mindset. It starts with the identification and the intent of bringing this change, doing that, that bit in the classroom first.
That's great to know. I'm sure Taranum educators listening out there really feel that, the when we look at this something, the concept called as personalized learning, or it is differentiation. But all of this starts with the simple process of identification. So when the teachers there themselves want to give opportunities, it's so important to see whether every learner is getting involved, whether every learner is a part of the process, or it's only the challenge, the challenge is going ahead for the gifted and talented, or for the students who have actually raised their bar really high. So
Yeah.
I like the fact that we are discussing equal opportunities. I like
Correct.
the fact that we are talking about the students that are average students, and maybe or most of the classrooms do have them more in numbers, and how as an educator you tackle this kind of a situation and be a part of the process of the child's learning journey. Maybe, one day, it might not happen overnight, we are all aware of it, because
That's right.
these critical thinking skills and these 21st century skills, basically the four C's that we talk about, and specifically looking at creativity and communication, is something that really needs a lot of thinking and a lot of time. So and I'm sure you would agree with me, that these are gifted to a few. Like, it might, when you give them an opportunity to come and speak up, they might not have a stage fear, they might not have, penning down things or just replicating or imitating, people. But yes, but there are that few who are there in our classrooms, I'm sure in every classroom, who hesitate, who cannot, build that confidence. They need that support, they need that guidance, as you said. So I think we are really looking and hitting onto a very important point, which will help our listeners to reflect as educators, that the when I say a classroom opportunity, I am looking at that opportunity of first involving every child, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So I'm going to go ahead with this discussion, but after a quick break. So let's listen to the break and come back.
Sure.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Meet USA Study, your one-stop platform for guiding students through their college application journey. Access up-to-date resources on universities, programs, scholarships, and application requirements, all in one place. Get easy-to-access tools, personalized timelines, expert tips, application templates, and exclusive webinars with admissions officers to help your student stand out. Visit usastudy.co.uk or call Phil at 0800 612 8271, because every student deserves the opportunity to shine with USA Study.
Welcome back after the short break. And I am here with Tarannum Sheikh on Teachers Talk Radio for the afternoon show with Famida Choudhary. How educators can integrate communication and creativity into learning. So, moving forward, Taranum has really, before the break, pointed out an important aspect that we as educators need to reflect upon and look at, is the very first step of identification of students who really might need that help, the push, the guidance to move forward when it comes to building up communication and creativity. So yes, Taranum, I would love to just go ahead with the conversation and keep it free flow, as you
Sure.
explaining it really well, that we started off with looking at also the aspect, where does these skills lie, and you gave us an example, I think, of a tree, like, the
Yeah.
branch, and the entire concept of where these skills actually come in and get embedded.
Hmm.
So yeah, over to you if we continue with what happens next after identification.
Sure, Famida. First, yes, identification is one part of the process which all educators must understand and do it very practically and being non-judgmental at the same time. That's one aspect of it, as I've already explained it. Going further into the conversation, once we have identified the students, Now what? Now what do we do? I think there are a lot of practices that the teachers across the curriculum can build. Now, here I'm not talking only about of creating opportunities in the English classroom, because I feel literacy is everyone's business. Everyone has to develop literacy skills among children, and for that, I would reinforce a lot of practical tactical things in the class, like storytelling and role plays, which irrespective or regardless of the curriculum, or the subject that the children are learning, the children can experience it in the classroom, so that they understand that the curriculum of speaking or confidence or communication or collaboration, for that matter, isn't just happening in my literacy lessons, but it is also it's integrated across the curriculum. So for example, the three things that I would could speak on top of my mind would be storytelling, role plays, persuasion. These are the three things that you can definitely and most certainly make a part of your lesson plan. So for example, let's say the children are learning about solar energy in their science lessons. In fact, the teacher can definitely create opportunity of persuasion, which is the core skill of today's world. The negotiation, the debating, it all starts with persuasion. So the teacher could have, instead of having an open-ended question, the teacher could have an opportunity like, convince me how solar energy could help make uh, our world a better place. Now here, the child is not just it's not just critical thinking, but here the
Mm.
child will also will be able to generate new ideas. That's one thing.
Problem solve, yeah.
Problem
Mm.
solving, and will also learn how to structure the ideas to make it persuasive. So everything can't be done in English lessons. As you know, English is a vast and a comprehensive subject. I think the curriculum um, could have elements of speaking in their lessons, and then that will help even our average achievers, our students who are also on the path of learning skills, like our low ability students or the slow learners, to come out and speak. Now there, it doesn't matter the quantity of the response, there it would matter the quality of the response that the children share. So that doesn't only allow the high ability students to always take lead or
Mm-hmm.
hog the discussion. It will allow the other students also to come out and try persuasion or do a storytelling on His Highness Sheikh Mohammed's life story.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me his story or retell his story. So those elements should be a part of the lesson, is what I think.
I'm getting something that it's very clear from what you just said, Taranum, is in the process itself as educators. I love the way when you said literacy is everyone's business.
Yeah.
Absolutely, so when we look at ourselves as educators and our pedagogical practices, we know that we are subject experts would be in a particular subject, but when it
Yes.
comes to a classroom where the child is dealing with multiple personalities coming in,
Yeah.
multiple different people coming in with different subject expertise, but on the contrary, or on the fact that when they come with the mindset of developing a particular skill across subjects,
Yes.
we will find the process getting better, because that is how we are giving opportunities to the child to
Absolutely.
build on it. So
Absolutely.
I feel, I'm sure our listeners would agree too. And please, you can definitely post your questions while you're listening if you have any queries, because we have Taranum, who is really experienced in this field, and she is giving, I like the way, not only examples, but she is recollecting anecdotes and sharing that with us, which will help us to connect. And she's from a perspective that she's looking from classrooms, what educators are currently doing, and from a person who has an bird's eye view of looking of what things might not be touched in the classroom. So that's what I'm really keen on getting the conversation forward, Taranum. And I really like the fact that you brought the point that when we say this cross curricular, when we say
Yeah,
this real life, when
absolutely.
we look at these strategies in lessons,
Yeah.
it has to be ongoing. It has to be in every lesson, irrespective of subject. And I would just, draw your attention, listeners, that when I say subjects besides literacy English, it's not only about English, math, science that I talk about. It has to be dance, it has to be
Correct.
your lessons, it could be art and craft. I think, art and
Mm,
craft is something where kids can just pen down their creativity in such a,
right.
in different ways. And I also remember an incident where I know of a student who was not great with writing.
Mm, mm,
But when I tell him to draw it out, sketch it out, his
right.
ideas, it comes up in a very fantastic, fabulous manner, which you
Yes.
can't even think of. So it is, these are the opportunities we are talking about, right?
Right.
We are not literally saying like, let them go on stage, have a an event where they
Right.
present, and they are, as you said, pressurized, or to come up, and it might backfire as well, as you said, when you keep
Yeah.
getting to that. So it has to be a process, and it could be different. I'm sure you have some more strategies that are out there.
Sure, Famida. Thank you very much. Um, I I would like to add to one more. It came to me like a revelation. Okay,
Mm,
when I began my entrepreneurial journey, and that is something I want to take this opportunity to share it on this platform. Is more often than not, we think communication to us, at least for me, was okay. When I see a prototype of a good communicator, to me, that person is someone who is extremely fluent, can use lofty words, okay,
mm,
and someone who has the ability to talk to 10 people or 10, 2500 people at a point, okay.
mm,
That was my mindset, okay. However, when I started studying and going deeper into communication skills practice, and I have specifically studied few very relevant people who have worked in this field of speaking, communication, charisma, and coaching.
mhm.
I came to understand that how crucial is nonverbal communication in communication skills. It's not just about what you say, it's how you say it, right? So I
Yeah.
had heard of this several times in my life, but I came to understand this very clearly, and I would vehemently stress it at this platform, that body language plays such a crucial role in developing students holistically. So when I studied the research by Albert Mehrabian back
Mhm.
in 90s, he has explained so clearly in his theory that communicate the communication model that comprises of verbal, non-verbal, and vocal. So he clearly explained that, for me, like I'm going back to the example of what I used to think good communicators should be. So I
Should be.
thought it is always about verbal, using
Mhm.
great
Yes,
words,
yes, yeah.
all of this. However, I was shaken up when I came to understand that the communication, the verbal communication, only comprises of 7% in the entire communication model. 55% is body language, and
Mm,
another 38% is the vocal power, means the voice, the pitch, the tone, the resonance. All of these plays such a crucial role. And that day when I read this theory in detail, and I was like, oh well, I had been training children to speak great English, to have
mhm,
great command or great hold on grammar. While that is important, I deem
mhm,
that as important. However, it's also significant that how students use the power of their body, the entire
mm.
body language, or the body language components include eye contact, facial expressions, posture, movement, facial expressions, use of smile, those kind of things. When I
Yes.
delved deeper into it, I understood that they do play a very, very crucial role. Now imagine if I have been in so many events, and I'm sure you would also relate to, where the
Mm,
speaker has a very good hold over the language, but is unable to connect with the audience, is
correct.
unable to you are unable to follow the speaker, because the speech lacks structure. You
It's
there is
something
no.
that, I'm sorry, but I need to just connect this when you're saying
Yeah,
something to facial expressions.
yeah,
I just remember, it quickly comes to my mind like
yeah,
one of
yeah,
the
yeah.
students
Go
who
ahead.
really
Yeah,
wants to, express himself, but is like his there's no expression at all. He's
right.
trying to give me, and the story had a lot of great, I could say vocabulary, jargons used,
Yeah,
maybe figures
yeah,
of speech also for that matter. But the point again is that he was not expressive. When I say that is
absolutely.
this, there's
Right,
a blank facial expression. So
absolutely.
when you
You're
said
right.
body language, and there's so much that actually comes under that, right?
Absolutely. In
Yeah.
fact, we have more facial muscles upward,
Yeah.
upward in on our face, and the upper region than down. So more emphasis is laid to how you use your facial expressions, and make the audience connect with you. And there are other techniques as well that comes in play with body language. So coming to the point of what the classrooms can have is, I think the revamping speaking curriculum or rethinking on what we are teaching children in speaking is going to the help us as educators to reflect if we really need to change it. Because in my experience of working in schools for 10 plus years, I don't think I have ever taught children how to use their hands in communication, and that's true. I mean, I regret the fact that why didn't I train my children that your hands is like, it's like a highlighter. Whatever you're saying, you're highlighting it to your
Mhm.
audience.
Mhm.
Imagine you don't use your hands, and you fold your hands, or you put your hands in the pocket. That's one way of your audience disapproves of you as a speaker. And I think we as educators have done so many mistakes, in communication. So, in my opinion, the speaking curriculum could be relooked or revamped in terms of adding elements of body language. Let's teach children the elements of body language. Let's show them how an eye contact with the audience will help them, connect with you, will have an impact on them, and then you slowly help them integrate the
Mhm.
words into whatever they are speaking. The words and the body has to be in synchronized, and that's
Mhm.
something we see it is not a normal practice. We see some children, like you said, could be gifted, but I slightly disagree, because this is a skill that every child can learn, and we as educators can also learn and understand. So I feel it's not a gift, it's not a talent, it's a skill that every child can hone, and we as educators must empower children towards this, strong techniques of speaking, verbal, non-verbal, and vocal power.
I think you've really highlighted a significant aspect of the research itself, stating that when you look at communication as a skill, the thing that maximum, gets the audience connected with is their body language, and the gestures, the facial expressions is something that is there. Because as when we look at literacy or English, we look at reading, writing, listening, speaking. But when we look at speaking, it's just not at the language aspect, but we are looking at these aspects which really
Right.
make a difference. But something that really comes to my mind is, especially with the little ones, as teachers it becomes so immensely important that you yourself are best at this.
Yeah.
Because if you are an educator and you're not able to connect in that small classroom with those 20-25 students, and not able to communicate well, when you say this body language and gestures and the facial expressions is something I think comes for us on a daily basis. And that is what I think as educators we must really look at. So I would just want to throw this question at random at you, like what you feel the educators would benefit from. Like would it be like looking at some speakers, watching the TEDx talks, or or it would be as simple as going to your classroom and making sure that the children are engaged. Why I say this, because I have come to a point, looking at a few teachers who've just been recruited, for example. Yeah.
Hmm.
And then what happens, you have something called as an HRT. We all know that there's a homeroom teacher.
Yeah.
And with the homeroom teacher, maybe, or if the teacher is like been there for years and she has that technique, she is very well managing the class. But then there's a
Yes.
subject teacher who comes in,
Hmm.
and then the class is haywire, and then they are like, you need to speak to this child, you need to make sure the
Yeah.
classroom is managed, you need to make sure that some techniques are used or some positives. And then one fine, you'll find that I've used everything, it's not working out, but you have to look into it.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking from that perspective, is it yeah, we have techniques in place, we have this, you have to have a hold of the class, and that can come only when you identify. I'm going back to what you said,
Hmm.
identify what the learning needs are, getting into personalized learning, having things, classroom management. But look from the perspective of that little one who's sitting there like for hours and having to learn so
Hmm.
many subjects at a time, with the dynamics of all these skills that he's have to
Hmm.
embed, he or she has
Hmm.
to embed. So I'm looking at, maybe it would be the teacher or the educator's personality, it could be
Hmm.
their body language, it could be because you made a mention of right now that you will have a speaker but he's just not get connected with the audience.
Yeah.
And then that is how maybe you might have the audience management, maybe they're talking for mobile phones on, not
Yeah.
listening. So that is how it comes in. So according to you, Tarannum, if you could just share with our listeners that maybe you have this, but as you said, this is nothing that is it is related to gifted and talented, it is a skill that can be learned.
Yeah.
So even it's not too late for the educators also. It may be 10 years, 15 years, but it's time to rethink, it's time to look
Right.
at it, look at
Right.
yourself and check whether you have this or you can build on it.
Hmm.
What you say?
Yeah, well, going back to what you pointed out first was how can educators benefit from, I mean, how can they make learning nonverbal skills as a part of their daily life? First, let's understand that. The life has become so easy now thanks to AI and all the technology that we are living in right now.
Mm.
It's not like you will have to go to the library and read host of books to understand about nonverbal communication. Of course, there are a few key speakers that I can recommend who have studied deeply, and there are books related to nonverbal communication that could be done alongside. One is for self learning for teachers. There are a lot of AI apps, which is a communication coach for you to which gives you spot on feedback on how you are doing. So let me give you a few examples. Like Udly is a very common app that we use at our classroom, where when the child is given a topic on the spot, the
Spell it,
child,
Tarannum. What is
yeah,
it?
it's Udly,
Okay.
YOODLI.
LEY.
Yeah,
Okay.
I.
NEI. Okay.
DLI, yeah, yeah. So what happens here? I came across this app, and then now this is a part of our classroom in the public speaking sessions that we do, where the child gives the once you log in, you can practice your speech over there, and it is like your assistants who will give you the guidance and feedback on how you're doing it, how you're doing the speech. So it listens to your speech and it evaluates your speech, and it gives you feedback. How was your use of voice? It also gives feedback on the filler words, the r's and the ums that kind of, there are the disfluencies of language that most speakers have. It also gives feedback on that, the word choice. It talks about the demeanor of a person, how sincere you appear to be, how warm you appear to be. So it's a very detailed feedback that you get from these apps. And there are scores of others also. There's one more called Orai, which is very app user friendly app again, that anyone could experiment. So first, I think we can start doing something like this to understand how is our speaking skills. It's again going back to self analyzing first. How is our speaking skills, and where do we need help? And then we delve into listening to speakers, and making notes on how you can develop the curriculum further. So it's highly crucial and it's fundamentally important that the senior management and the curriculum development team plays a very crucial role in this,
Mhm.
in up leveling the curriculum to meet the needs of today's time. It's no more about sounding great. It's about connecting. It's about having that
Building
impact.
the rapport. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. So that's something will take the children's learning and communication and confidence to the next level. In fact, when children join us, when we analyze their speaking, of course, that when the children come into our class first, we do it online. So we
Mhm.
first let the child speak, without interruption. It's a very random
Like
topic that
an
we do.
identification,
Right, right.
basically.
That's a process of identification that we take, and we play a game. Now, again, this is something that I wanted to talk about is the power of games in
Yeah.
communication. So, what we do is we ask the child to pick up any random object from around their table. So they happen to pick a pen or an alarm clock or whatever, and then they have to talk about it. It could be
Mhm.
anything that comes to
Anything.
their head, and we as teachers would just listen to them, absorb how the child is speaking, where the child needs help, and then we slowly break it down, simplify this concept of nonverbal. So my suggestion would be, when we are delving into nonverbal communication, I think it's important to simplify this, because this is something very new to children. uh,
Correct.
Hand gestures is something like, why do I have to use my hands,
Hands,
Well,
yeah.
these are the questions that my children ask, and
A
they are
few
like,
of them would be like quite reluctant. They would not want to.
absolutely. And then we happen to tell them, your hands are your trust indicators.
Hmm.
When you have open arm gestures, you are trying to tell your audience, trust me. Your open arm gestures has a different impact, your closed arm gestures has a different
Has a
impact.
different impact.
Those kind of aspects are very, very new to children. Those are the nuances of speaking, but when you are delivering it in a very fun, relaxed way, children love it, and the progress is immense, and you would be amazed the way children speak. So again, I go back to my average learners who need help. I'm talking about those who really need help in this area.
I'm so happy that you've been really discussing practical examples that really going to help us for sure. And it's time for a short news break, and we'll take that and be back, Taranum. I really find the conversation going so very in the right way to get our listeners, especially if educators listening to us, if not even educators, I'm sure parents or anybody who would love to, develop this skill even within themselves as individual is going to help, right? So I'm just going to go for a short news break.
Sure, sure.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading!
Meet USA Study, your one-stop platform for guiding students through their college application journey. Access up-to-date resources on universities, programs, scholarships, and application requirements, all in one place. Get easy-to-access tools, personalised timelines, expert tips, application templates, and exclusive webinars with admissions officers to help your student stand out. Visit usastudy.co.uk or call Phil at 0800 612 8271, because every student deserves the opportunity to shine with USA Study.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
BBC News reports on changes to apprenticeships. Businesses employing adult apprentices will now, according to the DfE, have the power to decide whether a maths and English qualification should be part of the prescribed course. This could mean 10,000 more apprentices are able to complete courses every year. According to the news site, more than 90,000 people over the age of 19 began apprenticeships between August and October 2024. However, more than 45% of apprentices drop out of schemes without completing the course. This is according to recent official DfE figures. The government said it hoped that relaxing the rules for apprentices over the age of 19 will ensure more students are both applying for and completing apprenticeships, in sectors particularly where there continues to be high demand, such as healthcare, social care and construction. Apprentices aged 16 to 18 will still have to complete an English and Maths functional skills qualification, equivalent to a GCSE, as a course requirement. The government has also confirmed plans to reduce the minimum duration of an apprenticeship from 12 months to 8 months from August 2025. The move has also been welcomed by many businesses, who say it will help employers fill skills gaps more quickly. Whilst failing to secure a qualification in maths or English is one of the key reasons apprentices do not complete courses, an education think tank is also quoted in the article as saying poor quality schemes are also a factor. The chief executive of Lifetime, England's largest apprenticeship provider, welcomed the changes, but also said he was disappointed the change was not fully extended to apprentices aged 16 to 18. Full details and comments from those following the current apprenticeship courses can be found on the BBC News website. Schools Week carries an opinion piece on workload and changes to Ofsted, focusing in particular on the impact changes and developments can have on staff who work in and leaders of small schools. The piece by the head teacher of a primary school highlights the fact that Department for Education and Ofsted have the same expectations of a school, regardless of its size. The article focuses on the outcome of a Freedom of Information request submitted to Department for Education about the statutory roles a school is required to have a named person for, and a list of the roles it is good practice to have a named person for. The response from the Department for Education, as quoted in the piece, was, "The department holds the information you requested, but it is being withheld because the department is not required to provide information in response to a request if it is already reasonably accessible to you." However, the piece goes on to say that having accessed all of the documentation on the Statutory Guidance for Schools website and running them through an AI program to see how long it would take a human to read them, the outcome was concerning: between 29 and 40 days of uninterrupted work. The article closes with a concern that the information itself is actually not reasonably accessible, and that perhaps finding staff to complete the statutory roles is similarly challenging. In Wales Online, a story about Saturday detentions is featured. Those of a certain age will remember the film The Breakfast Club, which focused on an unlikely mix of students forced to spend a Saturday together after behaviour incidents in school. In Wales, however, a school led by a man dubbed Wales's strictest headmaster, where staff had previously been on strike over physical and verbal abuse from pupils, has just introduced the weekend detentions. The head teacher has said the decision was made because other forms of discipline had not been effective. According to the article, the school has also introduced other creative ways of disciplining pupils, including on some occasions asking their parents to attend class and sit next to them. Poorly behaved pupils have also been asked to carry out supervised litter picking. It's not the first time the school has made media headlines. In the past, it has also featured in the news for enforcing strict uniform policies. Further details can be found on Wales Online. Finally, the Nigerian Guardian reports that a Lagos-based educational institution has unveiled a campus in the UK. The campus will provide English language upskilling courses, leadership training, summer camps for students aged between 10 and 17, and a pre-masters programme for graduates seeking academic refinement before enrolling in UK universities. Speaking at the official launch of the campus at the residence of British Deputy High Commissioner, representatives of the school praised the school's expansion, saying it served as a bridge connecting cultures, ideas, and aspirations, and that it symbolised a shared vision for an education system that transcends borders. The British Deputy High Commissioner to Nigeria also highlighted the importance of fostering trade between Nigeria and the UK. Further details can be found online. This has been Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Welcome back to Teachers Talk Radio, and we are with Tarannum Sheikh, and it's really going to an interesting conversation where I think we just started off thinking of embedding the skills of communication and creativity and providing opportunities. But the Saturday lunch show with me, Famida Choudhary, is getting very interesting because we've been looking not at just a superficial thing and overview of the topic. We've been diving deep into it. And Taranum started off with mentioning about how it is crucial about taking first into consideration about the identification of students, looking at some demographic statistics of how a class might have a majority of average students or might have more of students who lack this skill. But everyone can actually embed this skill. It's not rocket science, and it's nothing that is gifted or something that you're born with. You can very well build on this, according to Taranum, and it's actually not a cakewalk, but yes, if you follow a process, have things in place, and make sure that the opportunities are given to the children at the right time in the right way, then this can definitely be taking spark in all our classrooms. So yes, Taranum, welcome back.
Thank you, Famida.
And yes, if we move further, as we was, I brought your attention, and you just moved it from children to educators, and then we spoke about that how we can also build these things. And you also made a mention that in this advancement of technology, that during these times where we have the AI and so many
Yeah.
apps that are available, where feedback and support is definitely going to be there, and even educators as individuals can improve on it. So moving further, Taranum, I would just want to explore, because you've been, I like the way you connect things with research and you back it up with things that have already been done, and how people have really read about this or got really deep into it to improve it for our
Yeah.
children who are going to be the global change makers of future. So looking
Yeah.
at this, I want to look at from the perspective of parents also, like
Yeah.
how we
Yeah.
can have them look at it. As we said, sometimes even parents tend to
Hmm.
pressurize their kids that अरे ये तो कुछ
Hmm.
बोलती नहीं है, or she's not talking at all, she
Hmm.
doesn't speak, or
Hmm.
sometimes it just happens that she's there around, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
people, and then parents want to just get the basic communication and they fail to do that. So looking at
Yeah.
parents, if you have something to share, also if you could share an example of a student who you have
Hmm.
seen as a like he was an average child, and how has
Hmm.
turned into,
Hmm.
because I want you to give a reality check to our listeners that
Hmm.
if
Hmm.
you start with these things and if you have a process in place, so how much time would it, because that's only tentative, as it will be different for person to person. But yes, you
Hmm.
give them a tentative thing that if things are in place, then what would be the
Hmm.
scenario if we look at the
Hmm.
child's learning outcome.
Mm-hmm. Great. Talking about parents now, Femida, as you know, parents play a vital role in mental, emotional, physical development of the child. I feel the role of a parent is like a tonic. They do not have to create processes of identification and systems, because we are the experts. I think that should be left to us to decide. However, parents can make a very significant impact on the child's development and confidence, if I may underline that part. Let me connect you to one anecdote
Mhm.
again, as I
Love,
love
even
telling
I love to
stories.
listen to it.
I had been to one of the events last month, which was a pitch perfect event. Here, the children of from ages 7 till 10 were given opportunities to, they were given a prompt and they had to complete
If I
it
may
with
ask,
an
which
idea.
age group was this?
This was age 8 to 10
Ah,
years.
okay.
Yes. So where I was the judge or one of the, the jury in this contest, and the prompt given to these kids was, the parents should not. That's it, and dot dot dot.
Okay.
And the children had to come up. Of course, these were prepared speeches, but the idea was of the students, because after the first round, the judges had then one to one with the contestants. We had to ask them questions if they really believe in what they said.
Uh-huh.
So the best part was, 80% of these speeches had something very common, and that was comparison. They said parents should stop comparing us. That affects us. I feel I am a no one. I feel I am not good enough. And of course, they had their own perspective of why they said, and they also had their anecdotes to convince us why the idea was better. Um, Coming to the point which I'm trying to make is the role of parents. Now, here, I think parents unknowingly are creating uh, an undue pressure on children these days. They see a lot of, thanks to social media, that the parents, everyone's online, we're all digitally connected,
Yes.
and when these videos are published and they see other kids speaking, debating, storytelling, they start to question themselves, where does my child stand? And that puts a lot of pressure on them as parents, because they also want their child to be competitive, to be able to articulate and all of this. But what happens is, the way they conduct this whole thing with with the child is, they start to compare. Okay,
Yes.
they are like, okay, I didn't like the way you spoke in the class, or your performance has been,
Not up
it's
to
been
the mark.
dipping in.
Yes.
Yes, your teacher is not very happy with you. Whatever the context is, what I'm trying to say is the power of words.
Ah.
So my advice to parents is, words have immense power. It has the power to heal.
Mm-hmm.
So, how about if the parents use the words in a positive way? You know, so when parents ask me this question, oh, well, what should I do about my kid? I'm like, your child is good. He may be an introvert. This is another, a misconception that parent has, is my child is an introvert. There's a problem in my child. I'm like, relax. Introverts, your child is an introverted child. It's just a personality
Mm-hmm.
type. It doesn't have to do with your child not being able to do anything in life.
Mm-hmm.
Even the introverts are the most creative and the most, the CEOs of high level suites. It's not that they cannot do anything in life. So firstly, there are a lot of misconceptions that compounds in the parents mind. So what one suggestion that I would give parent is, use the words wisely. Affirm the child that, yes, you're not yet there, but I know you will get there.
The
you know
belief, basically. Yeah. Yeah.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. The self belief plays a very important role in the child's
I think,
communication.
Taranum, this is equally true about educators also. I think even in the
Yeah.
class, I'm sure, of course, this has changed over time, where now we are looking at individuals as they are. We don't compare, one child to another. But I'm
Mm.
sure
Yeah.
this is still there, when you look at in the
Mm.
classrooms itself, when we say the average, the high achiever and all. I can think
Yes.
about the
Yes.
complexity when you say that,
Yes.
only the high achievers are
Absolutely.
given an opportunity. What might be
Right.
happening with that child who's never given an
Absolutely.
opportunity? He might not even verbally come
Absolutely.
up and speak about it.
Right, right. In fact, in one of the meetings which I attended with the parents at Active
Hmm.
Kids, was when we in the during the session, when we were asked, telling the parent what's the child's strength and weaknesses, she happened to reiterate one thing. Oh, he's never opening up. He's always shy. He's always scared. And we were like, these words impact the
Mhm.
child. She may not mean to hurt the child, but these words will create the child's self
We will
image.
internalize
That
it.
plays.
Mm.
Absolutely. So, my suggestion, my only suggestion would be use words to build confidence in the child, and be that beacon of light
I,
for the child, rather
yeah,
than being
think that
someone,
words
yeah,
can
who's
actually break adults also. It's so important as,
absolutely,
we as adults also, we tell each other, speak up, speak good, otherwise, like silent.
yes,
Or, you have to really be so careful and cautious of what you're talking. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, in one of the researches that I
Mhm.
read, was the speaker mentioned that if you what the research did, what the researchers divided the two groups into two in equal halves, and they sent them into two rooms. They asked one group that you're going to play a community
Mhm.
game,
Mhm.
okay, and in the other room where they sent, they told that now we are going to that you are going to play a Wall Street game,
Mhm.
okay. And after the game was over, when they evaluated the success of both, they found that the people who played the community game were ready to share their rewards, were more community oriented, they were ready to help each
Mhm.
other, while the people in the other room, they were competitive. They wanted to win, they wanted to be at the top. So the just the word of
Mhm.
community made such a big impact, that you're a community part of it. So that's the point I'm trying to make. That's the power of words. And we must, as educators, as parents, as senior leaders, must know that this will create an self it is helping children create their self-esteem. And self-esteem is very closely linked with confidence, and confidence is so linked to communication skills. So those are the
Like
three
a
C's that
vicious
I
cycle.
yeah.
Absolutely. So I think, Tarannum, today's conversation has really reinforced that communication and creativity are essential and not optional. I really love the way you have backed up whatever we discussed with anecdotes and research based theories that have really, proven things, and you have made a mention of it. This is something I think we all educators, it's a good takeaway for us, that when we also speak up or share ideas, it's so good that it's backed up with a evidence and some example, or, and as you likely say, an anecdote. We've explored how teachers can embed actually these speaking and
Right,
communication skills as a process,
right,
and
right.
again, reiterating that this is not something that anybody is born with. You can really learn it. It's a skill
Yes,
which you can
yes,
have it not only for the children, but it is also for educators as individuals. They can definitely embed it for themselves.
absolutely.
And from the parent point of view also, one key takeaway, as you mentioned, was about not comparing your kids to anyone. Give them time,
Right.
believe in them, and you will see results.
Right. And Famida, just to circle back to the question that you asked, was you wanted me to share how much time would a
Yes,
child
yes,
take to
yes.
kind of show that progress? Do we have that much time
Yes,
to cover
yes,
this
yes.
point? And the success story too that you
Sure,
mentioned
sure.
should be a part of this. So I'd like to connect these two things with what I already mentioned is the power of words and the positive reinforcement that we use. Now, positive reinforcement is highly misunderstood. It doesn't mean it has to be a tangible reward, a star, or
Mhm.
something. It should just mean a
Pat on.
pat on the back and say, "Well, well, you've done good. I'm proud of
Mhm.
you," or giving opportunities to child to lead a particular group. Or it could mean that giving the child more opportunities of that kind in future as well. So coming back to the success story that I have for you guys is, yes, I do have one of my students, which then this story is very dear to me.
Mhm.
I have this student called Hannah,
Mhm.
who joined us back in 2022.
Okay.
And when she joined us, she was a very shy, timid child, very introverted sort of a child. When I analyzed her, and I put her into a batch of students who were two levels above her.
Oh,
And I just wanted to gauge if she would be able to, take it up, and the impact of heterogeneous grouping.
yes.
So this is what I experimented. Though I believe I trust my gut a lot in such situations. sessions. But after a few sessions, I thought I've made a mistake because I feel it is negatively impacting her. But I was
Mhm.
wrong. In fact, what happened was, with positive reinforcement and with helping her shape her self belief, I was able to help her. The child who was hardly able to introduce herself in the first year, in that entire year, was very tumultuous. The first year was very slow, and that made me question a lot. But then, with consistency and focus and that positive reinforcement that I felt was working, in the second year, I saw this child uh, applying for opportunities in school, not just applying it, but she actually nailed it. She went to a national speaking competition
Wow.
in the second year and was also selected as a deputy lead in her school. And then in the third year, she's all over the place. Now she is deemed as one of the best leaders in the school. She's blogging, she was a part of a podcast. And this journey, this story has always been heart
Yeah,
touching to
I
me.
think
And I
if
think
you
this is
pave
what
the
the
way
power of words.
and if
Yeah.
things are, done, then the rest is taken care of. Yeah.
Correct, correct. I think consistency, it works. It matters a lot. The teachers, parents have to be consistent at what they are doing, and positive
And a
reinforcement.
team
Uh,
effort, actually, right? It is the teacher,
Correct,
the child, the
absolutely
parent, and
right.
his or
Right.
her circle that is there around.
Absolutely. And how much time would it take is, it depends again, Famida. It's too difficult to comment on a certain timeline that the child may take to show the confidence. In my experience, I've seen students uh, speak very confidently and articulate their ideas so clearly within 3 months also. But that, like you said, it's a teamwork. It also depends on how's the environment at
Mhm.
home. uh, how are the parents? Are they progressive? Are they the ones who are
And
supportive
the
enough in this
consistent
in this
effort,
need?
because you mentioned consistency
Absolutely.
as well. Yeah.
Right, right. So that is what I could end up. Just the one last thing that I could summarize this question is the positive affirmation really works with children. So if educators and parents can have an affirmation written with the child, I'm confident, I'm creative, I'm working on myself, or I'm progressing well, I'm good. These kind of words will also filter in and become a child's personality. That yes, I'm a work in
Yeah.
progress. I'm confident and I'm creative. So when the next time when they face an audience, uh, they would not feel the anxiety
These
to
words
that
are like
level. You're
sounding for
reframing.
them, right?
Absolutely, you're reframing the anxiety for them, that yes, I'm a work in progress. So yeah, I would like to end this question with this thought.
Thank you, Taranum. I think we all educators have that reflection point today, that how much positivity is there in our classrooms, how much can the child take back with him or her, and all our homes also, where we have parents dealing with children and looking at their home environments. That too makes an effect,
Right,
and it should be positive. So, just wanting to end our episode, I think we can go ahead with the conversation and have multiple more things discussed about it, because I think this topic is something which is never ending, where we are looking at the
right,
child's progress and his individuality, and looking at the long run how the child can benefit in future too. So I think we can, just sum up saying that every student has a voice, and our job is to help them shape, refine, and share it. That is what we are talking about, the opportunities that we spoke of. So, Tarannum,
right.
thank you for sharing your insights. And to all our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Let's continue building classrooms where every student is a confident communicator, writer, and thinker. But I think I will make a little change, not building only classrooms. Let's build an entire environment where these children thrive and learn and be a part of the process, and have these tools of self expression, and they use it very, effectively wherever they go. So that was I would end
Absolutely.
the session for today.
Even I want to say a few words to you, Femida. I think what you're doing is so incredibly important. Giving a platform like this to teachers to connect with like minded teachers across the borders and helping understand perspectives of teaching. And even, it is helping us expand our horizons so much. Despite your busy schedule and your commitments, you're still doing this. It's really beautiful. And I would love, to hear, to be a part of this, and as an audience and or a speaker whenever you need
Sure.
me, to understand more about how we are unlocking the potential in the
Amazing.
classrooms.
Thanks to Teachers Talk Radio, and we will be continuing inspiring our educators down there. Thank you for everyone listening out there.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.